Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
The distress beacon did not scream. It persisted. Across the silent dark between stars, it pulsed with mechanical precision. Every 3.2 seconds, a burst of encoded desperation. It carried no emotion, no panic, no pleading tone, only data. But to those who understood it, the message was unmistakable. We are dying. Help us. It traveled for years, past drifting asteroid fields, through the gravity wells of dying stars, across the invisible highways of hyperspace lanes used by civilizations that had long since abandoned the need for fear, until at last it was heard, in the heart of the Galactic Coalition Central Station, a structure grown, not built, from crystalline lattices orbiting a white giant. The signal was received by the listening choir. They were not machines, not entirely. The choir consisted of hundreds of semi-sentient entities, their consciousnesses intertwined, constantly filtering the noise of the universe for meaning. They did not sleep, they did not tire, and when the signal reached them, the choir faltered. A ripple passed through their shared awareness. Urgency, danger, unknown variables. Within seconds, the signal was elevated. Within minutes, it reached the council. The council chamber did not exist in any single place. It was projected, a shared space of perception, where representatives from across the galaxy manifested in forms comfortable to their species, some as bodies, others as shifting patterns of light or clouds of particulate intelligence. At the center hovered the message, rotating slowly, repeating endlessly. High Mediator Eluin emerged first, her form resembling a cascade of bioluminescent tendrils drifting in water. Her voice, when it came, resonated directly within the minds of all present. Identify origin. A lattice of geometric shapes responded. The Archivist node. Signal traced to Lather Prime. Outer Persis Arm Coalition adjacent. Non-member civilization. Pre-harmonic technological phase. A murmur spread. Non-member? One entity pulse and irritation. Why escalate? The Archivist node did not react emotionally because of the second part of the signal. The projection shifted. Additional data unfolded. Sensor logs, fragmented transmissions, corrupted visual feeds. Stars dimming. Ships disintegrating. A planet's atmosphere flickering with unnatural radiation spikes. And something else. Something moving within the light of a star. They are consuming it, whispered one of the elder delegates. That is not possible. Another replied immediately. Stellar energy extraction at that scale would destabilize. It is destabilizing, the Archivist interrupted. Lather Prime system is collapsing. Silence followed. Even among 1,000 species, there were limits to understanding, and this crossed them. Classify the aggressor, Eluin commanded. The Archivist hesitated. A rare occurrence. Unknown origin. No prior records. Designation assigned. Carzo. Capabilities? Adaptive energy consumption. High resistance to conventional weaponry. Non-communicative. Behavior pattern suggests predation. That word lingered. Predation was a concept most coalition species had long since evolved beyond. It belonged to ancient histories. Stories of survival before enlightenment, before peace. Can they be reasoned with? Asked a soft, harmonic voice from the outer ring. No, the Archivist replied. Can they be contained? No. Then another voice trembled. They must be stopped. Again, silence, because no one present had done such a thing in a very long time. The Coalition had not fought a war in over 12,000 cycles. Conflicts were resolved through precise interventions, disabling technologies, environmental adjustments, negotiation algorithms. Even rogue civilizations were gently redirected, never destroyed. Violence was inefficient, barbaric, unnecessary, and yet the images of Lather Prime continue to play. A world burning, a system unraveling, a species unknown, unseen, on the edge of extinction. We must send aid, Eluin said at last. Agreement rippled through the chamber. Yes, stabilization fleets. Energy dampening arrays. Evacuation corridors. Containment fields. Solutions poured forth. Elegant. Precise. Useless. The archivist node interrupted. All proposed methods have been simulated. The chamber dimmed as projections filled the space. One by one, each solution played out and failed. Ships dissolved under carzo assault. Energy fields were consumed. Evacuation routes collapsed before completion. Timelines shortened. Survival probability dropped. 0.4%, 0.02%, 0.0001%. Then what do you suggest? Eluan asked, her voice now carrying something unfamiliar. Strain. The archivist paused. Processing. Searching. Deep within the Coalition's vast records, beyond active alliances, beyond known species, into the catalog of unassimilated civilizations. There one file pulsed. Flagged. Unresolved. Risk classification. Extreme. There is one option. Every entity in the chamber focused. Species designation. Human. The word felt heavy, primitive, unrefined. Status. Eluan asked. Recently contacted. Not yet integrated into Coalition frameworks. Technological level. Rapidly advancing. Behavioral profile. Inconsistent. Define inconsistent. The archivist expanded the file. Visuals appeared. A blue planet teeming with violent weather systems. Creatures hunting other creatures. Explosions. Machines of war. Then contradictions. Art. Music. Laughter. Cooperation. Destruction. Creation. Endurance. They evolved on a Class 12 death world, the archivist said. A wave of unease swept the chamber. Death worlds were not theoretical. They were avoided. Environments so hostile that intelligent life rarely survived long enough to develop civilization. Gravity above galactic norm. Predatory ecosystem. Extreme climate variability. Pathogenic saturation. Then how did they adapted. More data unfolded. Humans surviving disasters. Fighting wars. Rebuilding. Improvising. Thriving in conditions that would extinguish most known species. They exhibit high tolerance for stress, damage, and uncertainty. The archivist continued. They are capable of operating under chaotic conditions. And their approach to conflict? Eluan asked carefully. The answer came without hesitation. Direct. That word echoed. Direct meant confrontation. Direct meant violence. Direct meant war. They are unstable. One delegate objected. Unpredictable. They may worsen the situation. Or resolve it. Another countered quietly. They are not part of us. A third insisted. They do not follow our principles. No, said the archivist. They follow their own. Eluan drifted closer to the projection of Earth. Clouds swirled over vast oceans. Storms raged. Lights of civilization flickered across continents. So fragile. So dangerous. If we call upon them, she said slowly, what will they require? The archivist paused, then answered with unsettling simplicity. They will not ask whether they are allowed to act. A long silence. Then, send the signal. Eluan decided. Across the void, a new transmission formed, carefully encoded, translated into every known communication structure, directed toward a small, turbulent world orbiting an ordinary star. To the species known as humanity, a civilization faces extinction. We request aid. And for the first time in countless ages, the Galactic Coalition waited, not for a solution, but for a response. The reply came faster than anyone expected. Not years, not months, hours. On the Coalition Relay Network, the return signal appeared almost abrupt. No ceremonial formatting, no layered diplomatic structure, no preamble of identity, history, or intent, just a compressed packet of translated text. It took the linguistic engine 0.4 seconds to process. Then it displayed. Message received. Coordinates locked. We're coming. The council chamber fell silent. That is all, one delegate asked. No negotiation? Another added. No confirmation protocols? No terms. The archivist node rechecked the transmission. No additional data. Eluan studied the message again. There was something unsettling in its simplicity, not arrogance, not ignorance, just certainty. They did not ask what they would face, she said quietly. They assumed it did not matter, the archivist replied. Earth. The room smelled like burnt coffee and overheated circuitry. Rows of screens flickered with alien data streams, partially translated and still stabilizing. Scientists argued in low voices, while military personnel watched in sharp silence. Commander Gabriel Reyes stood at the center of it all, arms crossed, eyes fixed on projection of Lather Prime, a planet coming apart. Well, he said, exhaling slowly, that's not good. Dr. Minahan didn't look up from her console. That's the scientific term, yes. Reyes smirked faintly. Aliens in trouble. Bigger aliens eating their son. And somehow we're the cavalry. You say that like it's surprising, she replied. He glanced at her. It is surprising. No, she said, finally turning. It's inevitable. She pulled up the Coalition's attached data, fragmented combat recordings, energy readings, structural analyses of the Carzal. They tried everything that makes sense, she explained. Containment redirection, negotiation frameworks. And it all failed, Reyes finished. Because they don't think like predators anymore, Han said. They evolved past that. Reyes looked back at the burning planet. And we didn't. Around them, the room shifted from confusion to motion. Orders were already being issued. Fleet readiness, weapon loadouts, jump calculations. No one asked if they were going, only how fast they could leave. Admiral wants a plan in 10 minutes. An officer called out. Reyes didn't hesitate. We don't have 10 minutes. He tapped the projection, zooming in on the Carzal formations, jagged, irregular, almost organic. They're feeding, he said, which means they're predictable. Han raised an eyebrow. Predictable how? They'll go where the energy is highest. Reyes replied. So we give them something better to chew on. Han's eyes lit up. You're thinking bait. I'm thinking we hit them with everything that makes no sense to them. She smiled. Improvisation, she said. Exactly. Within the hour, Earth's fleet was mobilizing. Not a single unified armada, but a patchwork of vessels, each designed for different conditions, different doctrines. Warships bristling with railguns, carriers packed with strike craft, retrofit cargo ships converted into missile platforms, even experimental vessels that had never seen real combat. To the Coalition, it would have looked disorganized. To humans, it was flexible. The jump. Coalition observers gathered as Earth's fleet prepared to enter hyperspace. They expected precision, symmetry, harmony. Instead, they saw controlled chaos. Ships launched in staggered intervals. Engines flared at different intensities. Formation patterns shifted mid-deployment. They are not aligning properly, one observer noted. They are, the archivist corrected, just not in a way you recognize. Rhea's voice transmitted across the fleet. All right, listen up. We don't know what these things are, but they bleed energy and they eat stars. That means they can be overloaded, redirected, or blown to hell. A few chuckles came over comms. Standard procedure, then a pilot replied. Exactly, Rhea said. We hit hard, stay mobile, and adapt faster than they do. If something works, do more of it. If it doesn't, try something else. A pause. Then more quietly, and don't expect clean. Across hundreds of ships, crews strapped in. No speeches. No grand declarations. Just a shared understanding. This was going to hurt. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Space broke. Lather Prime. The system was dying. The star dimmed unnaturally, its energy siphoned into massive, writhing structures orbiting close to its surface. Carzal vessels drifted like predators at a feeding ground, their forms pulsing with stolen light. Below, Lather Prime burned. Cities collapsed under gravitational distortions. The atmosphere shimmered with radiation storms. The last remnants of its civilization hid deep beneath the crust, waiting. For an end they could not stop. Then, reality tore open. Human ships didn't arrive. They punched through. Hyperspace ruptured violently as the first wave emerged too close. Too fast, and far too aggressive for anything the Coalition had ever documented. Before sensors could fully adjust, they fired. Missiles screamed across the void. Railgun slugs shattered vacuum silence with kinetic fury. Fighter craft launched instantly, engines blazing as they dove straight toward the Karzul swarm. No scanning phase, no analysis delay, no attempt at communication. They engaged immediately. A Coalition observer whispered, stunned. They didn't even assess the threat. "They are assessing it," the archivist said. "By fighting it." The Karzul reacted. Massive energy arcs flared outward, striking the incoming fleet. Several human ships disintegrated instantly, consumed, unraveled, erased. For a moment, it seemed inevitable. The same pattern, the same failure. Then the humans did something unexpected. They kept going. Losses reported. A pilot said over comms. "Noted," Reyes replied. "Adjust vectors. Keep pressure." "Sir, we're taking heavy fire." "Yeah," he said calmly. "That means we're in the right place." More ships exploded. Others pushed forward. Damaged vessels didn't retreat. They shifted roles. A carrier with a fractured hull became a missile platform. A crippled cruiser redirected power to a final barrage before drifting into enemy lines as a kinetic weapon. Every loss changed the battlefield. Every mistake became data. "They are integrating failure," the archivist said, almost in disbelief. "They're learning in real time." On the surface, Lathra Prime sensors detected something impossible. Objects entering the atmosphere at terminal velocity. Unshielded, uncontrolled, burning. Impact imminent. One of the planet's remaining systems announced. Then, impact. Drop pods slammed into the fractured terrain. Some shattered, others cracked open, and from within, humans emerged, armored, armed, alive. They didn't wait. They didn't regroup. They didn't hesitate. They looked up at the sky, at the war unfolding above, and then toward the advancing Karzul ground forms. And they ran toward them. Back in orbit, Reyes watched the chaos unfold. Ships burning, enemy adapting, battle escalating beyond prediction. He smiled, just a little. "All right," he said. "Now we're getting somewhere." The battle did not stabilize. It mutated. From orbit, the conflict no longer resembled anything the Galactic Coalition recognized as warfare. There were no clear lines, no controlled engagements, no elegant exchanges of force. It was asymmetrical, erratic, alive. Human ships moved like a storm, fracturing, reforming, colliding with the enemy in patterns that made no predictive sense. And yet, the Karzul began to falter. "Update," Eluan demanded, her voice cutting to the growing unease in the council chamber. The archivist node responded immediately, its tone unchanged. But now, there was something beneath it. Not emotion, but strain. Human forces have sustained 43% losses. A ripple of shock. And yet, it continued, their operational capacity is decreased by only 12%. "That is not possible," one delegate said sharply. "It is," the archivist replied. "They are redistributing function." The projections shifted. A destroyed command vessel. Moments later, 3 smaller ships altering formation, assuming its role. A carrier venting atmosphere. Seconds later, its fighter wing reorganizing independently, continuing coordinated strikes. A cruiser, engines gone, drifting. Then, its weapons fired anyway. "They are not relying on structure," the archivist explained. "They are relying on continuity. They are ignoring failure," another delegate whispered. "No," said Eluan, watching closely. "They are absorbing it. Orbit, control chaos." "Reyes, we got a problem," came a voice over comms. "Only one." Reyes shot back, gripping the edge of his console as his ship shuddered under another impact. "Enemy adapting to our missile patterns. They're intercepting at 70% efficiency." "Then stop being predictable," he replied instantly. A pause. Then, "Copy that." Within seconds, the battlefield shifted again. Missiles no longer followed direct trajectories. They spiraled, split, detonated early, or delayed ignition entirely. Some were even fired away from the enemy, only to curve back in unpredictable arcs. Are they malfunctioning? A coalition observer asked. No, said the archivist. They are experimenting. A human frigate took a direct hit. Half its hull vanished in a flash of devouring light. The ship spun, tumbling out of formation. Vessel lost, an observer stated. But inside the wreckage, movement. Bridge is gone. A human voice coughed over comms. Engineering here. We've got partial control. Then you're in charge now, Reyes said without hesitation. Understood. Moments later, the broken ship fired everything it had left. They are transferring command mid-catastrophe, the archivist noted. Without hierarchy, without delay. Surface, the realization. Lathrop Prime's surface was worse. Much worse. The Carzo ground forms were not merely extensions of their ships. They were living conduits of stellar energy, towering, radiant, unstable. Each step warped the terrain. Each movement radiated lethal heat. No coalition species would have approached them directly. The humans did not stop approaching. Contact front, a soldier shouted as the first Carzo entity surged forward, its body blazing like a fragment of sun. Spread out. Don't bunch up, another yelled. Energy lashed out. The ground exploded. 2 humans vanished instantly. The rest didn't retreat. They adjusted. Thermal spikes. Watch the pattern, someone called out. It pulses before it strikes. Then move between pulses. And just like that, the impossible became manageable. They are identifying attack rhythms in real time, the archivist said. No, Eluan corrected softly. They are feeling them. A human squad flanked the creature, firing specialized rounds. Most did nothing, absorbed, dissipated. Then one soldier switched weapons. A crude, chemical-based explosive. He threw it directly into the creature's core. The result was unexpected. The Carzo form destabilized. Its energy surged violently, then collapsed inward. Did you see that? The soldier shouted. Yeah, another replied. It choked on it. Above, Dr. Hahn's voice cut into the comms network. That's it, chemical disruption. Their energy metabolism isn't built for unstable reactions. Reyes grinned. Say that in a way soldiers understand. Blow them up with the wrong stuff, she snapped. Perfect, he said, turning the tide. The shift was immediate. Human forces began deploying anything and everything that didn't belong. Unstable fuels, improvised explosives, even debris launched at high velocity to disrupt the Carzo's energy intake. They are weaponizing incompatibility, the archivist said. They're feeding the enemy things it cannot process. The Carzo adapted. Of course they did. Their forms shifted, adjusting to new threats. But the humans adapted faster. They changed again, a pilot reported. Good, Reyes replied. That means they're reacting. Keep pushing. More losses, more damage, more chaos. But now, the Carzo were no longer advancing. They were responding. That is the moment, Eluan whispered. What moment? Another asked. The moment a predator becomes uncertain. The breaking point. At the heart of the system, the largest Carzo construct still fed on the star. Massive, immovable, untouched. That's the source, Han said. Everything else is just extensions. Reyes nodded slowly. So we cut off ahead. Problem, a tactical officer said. We don't have anything that can penetrate that structure. Reyes leaned back, thinking, watching the battlefield, the wreckage, the drifting corpses of ships. Then he smiled. Yeah, he said, we do. The plan no one else would try. Redirect all disabled vessels. Reyes ordered. Sir, the officer blinked. All of them, he repeated. Set collision course with the primary target. That's a lot of mass. Exactly. The comms lit up. You're telling us to ram it? I'm telling you, Reyes said calmly, to turn everything we've lost into something useful. A pause. Then, laughter. About time, one pilot said. Been waiting to do this all day. Another added. Across the battlefield, broken ships began to move. Slowly at first, then faster. guided not by engines, but by whatever control remained, or none at all. They are converting wreckage into weapons, the archivist said. They are weaponizing defeat. The Carzo construct reacted too late. The first impact struck like a meteor. Then another, and another. A chain reaction began. Unstable energy, foreign matter, kinetic overload. The star itself flared violently, and for the first time, the Carzo recoiled. Silence before collapse. The battlefield paused. Just for a moment. Then, the massive construct fractured. Light spilled out, not consumed, but released. Uncontrolled. Violent. Dying. "It's breaking," someone shouted. "Keep hitting it." Reyes barked, and the humans did, with everything they had left. From orbit, from the surface, from ships that were barely holding together, from soldiers who should have been dead. They didn't stop. They didn't slow. They didn't question. Because this was what they were built for. In the council chamber, no one spoke. They simply watched. As a species from a world of storms, predators, and endless struggle, did the one thing the galaxy had forgotten how to do. They fought until the enemy broke. For a long time, no one moved. The light of Lathra Prime star stabilized, weak, wounded, but no longer being devoured. The violent distortions that had twisted the system began to fade, leaving behind drifting debris and cooling radiation scars. Where the Carzo had been, there was nothing. No retreat, no regrouping, no signal, just absence. "They're gone," a coalition observer whispered. Not defeated, not driven back. Gone. The battlefield, once alive with chaos, settled into an uneasy stillness. Human ships drifted among the wreckage. Some burned quietly. Some were broken beyond recognition. Some, impossibly, were still operational. "Status," Reyes said, his voice hoarse but steady. Reports flooded in. Multiple hull breaches contained. Life support failing on decks 3 through 7. We're down to 30% ammunition. Med bays are full, overflowing. A pause. Then, softer. "But we're still here." Reyes closed his eyes briefly, then nodded. "Good," he said. "That's enough." The survivors, on the surface of Lathra Prime, the sky, once filled with fire, began to clear. Ash settled. Radiation storms weakened. And slowly, cautiously, the survivors emerged. They were not like humans. Their forms were slender, their movements deliberate, their skin faintly luminous under the dim light of their recovering star. For generations, they had known only stability, harmony, balance, and then destruction. Now they stepped into a world that should have been gone, a world that had been saved by something they did not understand. In the distance, human soldiers moved through the ruins, carrying the wounded, reinforcing unstable structures, marking hazardous zones, not celebrating, not claiming victory, just working. One of the Lathrans approached cautiously, their voice trembling as it translated through a coalition relay. "You stayed." A human soldier looked up, confused for a moment. "Yeah," he said simply. "Of course we did. You risked extinction for us." The soldier shrugged slightly. Seemed like the right thing to do. The Lathran hesitated. "Why?" The human paused, not because he didn't have an answer, but because he had too many. Finally, he said, "Because someone needed help." The cost, back in orbit. The scale of the battle became clearer. The numbers were staggering. Final tally, the archivist node reported to the council. Human fleet losses, 62%. A wave of shock rippled through the chamber. Ground casualties, extensive. It did not give a percentage. It did not need to. And yet, the archivist continued. The objective was achieved. Eluan watched the projections in silence. Ships destroyed. Soldiers gone. Entire crews lost in the void. "This is victory?" One delegate asked quietly. The question lingered. Heavy, uncomfortable. Eluan answered. "For them, yes." Understanding the unfamiliar, the council turned its attention to Earth, to the species that had done what none of them could. "Explain," Eluan said. "Why were they able to succeed where we failed?" The archivists knowed access deeper records, not just data. History, context. They evolved under constant threat. It began environmental instability, predation, resource scarcity, internal conflict. Images filled the chamber, storms tearing across oceans, creatures hunting, surviving, wars, collapse, recovery, again and again. They are not optimized for peace, the archivist said. They are optimized for survival. Another image appeared, humans rebuilding cities, helping one another, enduring. They do not avoid chaos, it continued. They function within it. And violence? A delegate asked hesitantly. The archivist paused, then answered carefully. They do not seek it. A shift in the projection. Humans laughing, creating, living. But when necessary, the image change, battle, fire, relentless motion. They do not hesitate. The message, on Earth, there were no grand parades, no planetary celebrations. Ships returned quietly. Damaged hulls guided into docks. Wounded transferred to medical stations. The dead counted, remembered. Commander Reyes stood in the observation deck, looking out at what remained of the fleet. Dr. Hahn joined him. You look terrible, she said. Feel worse, he replied. She handed him a datapad. Coalition message came in. He raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. Thanks. Don't call us again. She smirked faintly. Close. He read it. To humanity, your actions preserve the civilization. Your methods have challenged our understanding of conflict. We offer gratitude and caution. You are unlike any species we have encountered. Reyes exhaled softly. Yeah, he said. We get that a lot. Han crossed her arms. They're scared of us. Good, Reyes replied. She glanced at him. You mean that? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked back at the fleet, at the ships that didn't return. They should be, he said finally, a new reputation. Across the galaxy, the story spread, quietly at first, then faster. A dying world, an unstoppable enemy, a desperate call for help, and the ones who answered, not the most advanced, not the most elegant, not the most peaceful, but the ones who could. They came without hesitation. They fought without restraint. They adapted faster than the threat itself. They survived. A new classification began to circulate through coalition records. Not official, not yet, but widely understood. Humanity, Deathworlders. Epilogue, the next signal. Far beyond the edges of known space. Something listened. Fragments of the battle. Energy signatures. Patterns of resistance. Analyzing. Learning. The Carzo were not entirely gone. And now, they knew something new. There existed a species that did not behave like prey. On Earth, the stars looked the same as they always had. Distant, silent. Commander Reyes stood beneath them, hands in his pockets, watching, thinking. Dr. Hahn joined him. You think they'll come back? She asked. Reyes didn't look away. Yeah, he said. A pause. Then, with the faintest hint of smile. Good.